All right, Panther Lair, I am back to you guys with another video from the Pittsburgh Panthers' victory over the Mississippi State Bulldogs this past Tuesday as part of the NCAA tournament's first four. Now, I did mention in the previous video here about Spain pick and roll that Mississippi State did a lot of drop coverage against Pitt's ball screen, so we do want to take a look at that. Let's first talk a little bit about drop coverage and why teams use it. So we're going to play this first clip here. We have 4 clips for you guys. So you'll see what drop coverage is going to be is in a ball screen situation. Instead of this defender being completely flat or even like up to touch with the screen, they're likely going to establish some type of drop level or drop point, generally 6 to 10 feet away. I mean, I guess that's probably arguable, but it's going to be a noticeable sag off of the screener. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to invite a tough contested two. So the ball handler's defender, his job is to fight over the screen to do a rear contest while this defender sinks a little bit here to contain any type of drive. And the really good players that are good in drop also are able to sink to a point to not only contain, but also take away a potential roll here to the roll man. So that's the responsibility of the defenders involved in the actual ball screen action. Of course, this is going to require, just like most ball screens here with any type of roll, this is going to require tags and some help defense as well. But for now, we're going to focus on the drop coverage here that is taking place on the ball screen. So one of the things that makes Pitt pretty good at this point is you'll notice that Federico and Jorge Diaz-Graham and Guillermo Diaz-Graham, I guess probably more specifically Guillermo than Jorge, a lot of times when they run up to these, as you just saw, will kind of change the angle at the last minute. This keeps the defense guessing a little bit more, makes the screen a little bit more effective. Now, Burton, who's like a mid-range master, this is kind of like a nightmare to do this against Jamarius Burton. You'd probably rather him shoot a 3, to be honest with you, but, hey, if this is going to be their game plan, this is going to be their game plan. And Burton does a good job of attacking and hits pretty much a layup. Here you'll see this again. So this is going to be another drop point. Now, I think Tulu Smith, who obviously is a really good player, first team all SEC, he had a lot of difficulty, I think, in being comfortable with where he wanted the drop point to be. I think Mississippi State did not want them to just be able to step right into a 3, although that responsibility should be on the ball handler's defender to contest from the rear. But, Tulu really didn't want to have a deep drop. A lot of his drops are, relatively close to the screen. I wouldn't say probably not 6 to 8 feet, probably like 4 feet. So he gets caught out of position sometimes, and as opposed to being like really on balance here and almost square to Nelly to just be able to contain, he's kind of like backing up, giving ground, and then Cummings just steps into a nice shot. Now this is kind of a drag screen, and they're still going to play drop, so I really like the drag screens as an initial action for Pitt. I think that this kind of catches teams, especially good defensive teams, in like a semi-transition situation. Here you're going to see how like drop coverage is not good against 3-point shooting. So I'm sure that it was probably on the scouting report that the Diaz-Grahams could shoot. I mean, certainly more than Federico, but at the same time, they're not out here as like major threats quite yet. So I think this was just going to be the default coverage for everything. And you'll see here they establish a drop point. Now this drop point's like pretty reasonable, but I think the scouting report here just wasn't as up to date as it may have should been. Although again, it's not like Guillermo's probably going to hit 4 in a game. And so here, again, when you're trying to contain the drive, you're definitely going to leave yourself open to pick and pop and flare type opportunities. And then this last clip kind of just demonstrates what happens if the drop point's not very good. Or again, like I said with Tulu Smith, like I think he just did not have a great comfort into where he needed to be and wasn't really on balance when a lot of these things happen. Is because Cummings is just going to completely turn the corner here on this drop coverage and get all the way to the rim. I think you're going to see too, as this plays out, the power of shooting and spacing is you're not going to be able to help out of the strong side shoulder against a really good shooter. I don't think Nike's great or anything, but he obviously can make open shots. So last year's team, this guy probably helps. So he tries to establish a drop point, but he almost gets up to touch here. And I think just gets caught in no man's land, tries to sink back, and Nelly just makes a really good layup. So drop coverage was a big part of what Mississippi State tried to do against Pitt. They never really showed discomfort going against it. I think it played into the hands for guys like Burton. Nelly made plays all night. So it's one of the things that this Panthers team has done a really good job at is usually when teams throw different ball screen coverages at them or just general different defensive schemes, whether it be like funky zones or presses, this team has done a really good job of adjusting on the fly. I don't think they needed a necessary game plan against drop coverage, although I got to be honest, I don't watch like a ton of Bulldogs basketball, but they immediately knew how to attack it, and I think it really played in their hands. And I'm a little bit surprised that Mississippi State didn't try to switch this up at any point in time. They did switch occasionally, but this was their biggest part of their blueprint against ball screen coverage. But hey, if that's what got them here, or if that's what they practiced, going into this game, you might as well stick to your guns. It was a one possession game pretty much the entire time, so it wasn't like Pitt blew them out or anything. But just a really good job of the ball handlers, in particular Nelly Cummings and Jamarius Burton, dissecting the drop coverage, getting the most out of it. And I think if another team throws this out at them, then they're going to be ready to go.